This Team Ninja developed, Square Enix published Final Fantasy Origin is a alternate take of the original Final Fantasy game. Instead of trying to reimagine the world of Final Fantasy 1, we are thrust into the shoes of Jack, a very mundane, ordinary looking protagonist surrounded by his allies Ash and Jed, who are trying to overthrow the nature, the essence of chaos that apparently has overwhelmed Garland. We are not teased with the idea of fighting Garland or chaos. We actually have that as the cumulative boss battle in this game. But before we get to that, we discover the basis of what this game is all about. It is not a traditional turn-based RPG. It is a hack and slash, more Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Neo style of action adventure experience. Now, one of the first things that the player will notice beyond the mundane tutorial is the fact that the game is really dark, and not in the sense of the narrative or in the sense of the character's angst, but the fact is the game is just really, really dark. The environments are really dark. It's really hard to even see some of the stuff. And considering that this is on the PlayStation 5, you would think it would look a lot better, but of course, since this is also cross-generational, one can expect this not to look like the best experience. It's one of those things where they're trying to present a very grandiose, almost medieval style setting, and in turn it looks like Devil May Cry 2 in comparison to Devil May Cry 1. But beyond the subpar graphics is a battle system that, from an idea perspective, is actually pretty good, but feels incredibly slow and janky no matter what style of gameplay you're trying to utilize. There are several methods of attacks, one being just a regular attack where you can slash with whatever weapon you have in hand. There are also special attacks that utilize magic points or MP that, once again, should feel like the culmination of a big combo, but considering the fact that it does use up MP, you probably won't utilize that too much because of the fact you don't want to use up all your MP before a big battle when it's necessary. There is also a super attack known as the Lightbringer. Depending on what Lightbringer you equip, you can utilize once per battle. That will allow for you to, say, become a damage beast that unleashes a lot of damage while avoiding the loss of the break gauge. Now, the break gauge acts like the stagger meter that we've seen in other Final Fantasy games as of late. And the more times you get hit, or the more times you hit an enemy, that bar will go down, and once it goes down, it will allow for the character to be put in a prone position for a plethora of attacks, or in the case of an enemy, for a soul burst. Now, the soul burst attack allows for the player to pretty much destroy an enemy in one hit while absorbing the essence of that enemy and regaining MP. But two of the biggest implementation when it comes to the gameplay that is imperative to success when it comes to Stranger thus far is blocking and parrying. Now, you have two blocking options. One is the regular block. You can utilize the guard button to potentially parry attacks if you utilize it at the right time, which is right before you get hit. But the main thing that people want to use, the thing that will pretty much get you through any fight that I've seen thus far, is the Soul Shield. So in the case of yours truly, who mapped his controller to have the Soul Shield be on the circle button, and I will preface this by saying that one of the best things about this game is the fact that you can fully customize the control to your liking. I immediately changed around some of the control layout so it would feel better for me, and it's one of those things that I will definitely commend them for implementing. I put the Soul Shield on the circle button, and with the Soul Shield, if you utilize it properly, which is right before you're about to be struck with something, be it a physical attack, be it a magic attack, it will not only block damage, but also absorb the essence of that attack, thus refilling your MP gauge. And if you do it when the MP gauge is actually full, it increases the maximum amount of MP that you will have. The actual guard button feels unnecessary. The only disadvantage when it comes to utilizing the Soul Shield over the guard button is the fact that your break gauge will go down a lot quicker if you focus on using the Soul Shield instead of the regular guard button. But the pros and cons in using either or really favors the Soul Shield in general because of the advantage of getting more MP. And then, of course, if you are able to switch classes, if you've gotten to the point that you have the Maid class, then you're allowed to utilize elemental attacks and special attacks that you wouldn't have otherwise. Now, one of the biggest things that is definitely a positive in regards to the game is, as I just mentioned, the class system. There is a class system that's connected to the character, the main character, Jack, in this regard. You cannot, from what I've seen thus far, change the classes or the equipment layout or anything of the other characters. But for the main character, Jack, you can change classes, and you can actually equip 2 classes at a time and switch between them with the touch of a button, depending on whatever button you map to your controller. One of the big things about that is the fact that all these classes have job skill trees, and as you level up, you get skill points that will increase some overall across the board, something like strength or intelligence. And then for specific job classes, you'll have special attacks or moves that you'll be able to attain that really makes focusing on those job classes beneficial if that's the job class you see as the most proactive. But thankfully, both job classes or multiple job classes all get experience points at the same time, but depending on what job class you have equipped, that gets the majority of the experience points at that time. But everything is getting leveled up across the board. And I love the fact that you're able to learn on the fly, switch around whenever you need to, and thanks to the game actually having a pause menu, you're able to change your battle sets, change your equipment, and you will get a lot of equipment. At least thus far, from what I've seen in this game, you do get a lot of equipment that you can switch around and optimize to make your character the best suited for whatever battle scenario you're involved in. I love the job system. I think it's a great idea, but one of the biggest problems recent Final Fantasy games have had happens here as well, and that is the usage of magic attacks. Though this is a single player game, for some reason the game doesn't slow down where you're trying to choose a magic attack, and a somewhat of a weapon wheel that is in magic form appears, and as the wheel goes further clockwise, the magic attack that you're trying to pick becomes more powerful. So instead of having just fire, it becomes fire ego. But it's easy with the weapon wheel to kind of lose track of where you're at. And then to top it off, if you accidentally hit a button or go over too far, you may pick up the wrong spell, which of course could be very detrimental. This is coupled by the fact that time does not slow down when you're choosing a magic attack, so enemies are coming at you at the same speed they would if you're just doing physical attacks. Why this is a problem, I don't understand. In a single player game, this should be something that is not even a problem. It should be able, just like a lot of other single player games, where time slows down, you're given the chance to choose what you want to do, and then go back into battle. This also makes things a little bit more difficult when it comes to magic usage, because there are times where magic is a lot more stationary than you want it to be, and the enemies aren't. So that means you may miss a magic attack at the most dire of circumstances. Another big issue when it comes to the overall gameplay is the AI in general. And I don't mean just the enemy AI, that ranges from sometimes being just incredibly visceral and aggressive to just standing around and waiting to be hit and being very predictable with your attacks. I also mean the buddy AI, the ally companion AI, that will stand around and do absolutely nothing when an enemy is just standing there waiting to be hit and they're right beside that enemy. I would understand if this game had a stamina gauge where you could only attack for a certain period of time and would have to wait and move around a little bit before you could do some more attacks. But instead, they just stand there. And then there were times where they would go into battles where I'm running away from, and they refuse to follow and die. And then, of course, I have to go back and try to revive them so we can continue on, unless you activate a certain cutscene or trigger that pretty much automatically revives them. One thing that I did not appreciate whatsoever, too, was the fact there was a lack of a HUD in regards to their health. I have no idea how much health these characters have, and next thing you know, I'm wondering where they are, and you find that they've collapsed because they've been beaten down by an enemy to the point of knockout. From a narrative perspective, we don't get that much into it, so I don't know where the story is really going, and the anticlimactic finish really makes me less excited because I was expecting some kind of grandiose final trailer or something, and instead it's just, hey, thanks for playing. The soundtrack actually is very good in the final battle, But a majority of everything else I heard was mundane and really disappointing. A lot of the attacks and the battle scenarios sound hollow, which you would not expect from a Final Fantasy game. Overall, this is a solid experience that feels really janky, feels really rough around the edges, but doesn't feel like something that would get me thoroughly excited about what is to come, hopefully in 2022 for Stranger of Paradise. Maybe they have a lot of work to do that we haven't seen, that they will fix and make this thing more epic and more grandiose and more just enjoyable to play. But as of right now, I am not one of those people that would think that you would be wanting to go out and pre-order this game. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be that good. They may surprise me when it comes out. I will check it out when it comes out. But right now, from a demo, from a trial perspective, this left me wanting a lot more.
Chaos.
No. I am to become him. And who are you?
We're here to kill Chaos.
With this